Is Tesla App Store coming, and will it be a game changer for all of us, not just Tesla drivers, but the drivers around the world, as this is going to become a thing just like it did with an iPhone and all of the smartphones. I'm going to discuss this topic, but not by myself because it is Wednesday, and Eli Burton of My Tesla Adventure is going to be here, a fellow nerd. So, well, actually, he's much higher level nerd than me. So, I'm definitely interested in what he has to say because the possibilities are endless, and everyone's been kind of waiting for it. Elon Musk addressed it with a friend of the show, Ryan McCaffrey, in his interview last week. So, we're gonna reference that, of course, and. Gee, I just can't wait to talk to Eli about this. This is going to be really awesome. So, all of this is coming up next. Taking over the world, electrifying the world, Welcome to E4Electric, your number one source of unbiased electric car news. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click on the subscribe button down there so don't miss anything moving forward. And of course, thank you to all of my Patreons for supporting this independent channel. All right, so as you guys remember, Ryan McCaffrey has interviewed Elon Musk. It aired over the weekend on Sundays, and there are tons and tons of different news. I already made videos about the Roadster and the pickup truck, but there was something else. There were just so many different interesting things that he brought up, and today I want to talk about the App Store. Elon did talk in relative length about it, and I personally can't wait for it. There's some sort of a version of it right now over there, and I remember Ryan mentioning that originally there was even a button for it in the original 1.0 UI, I think. So, I just every time I think about it, my brain just explodes with possibilities. And of course, because it's Wednesday, Eli is going to be here in just 1 second. Of course, before I bring him on, I just want to quickly remind you that this video and this channel is sponsored by Byton. Check out all electric, all new SUV called M-Byte coming to the US and Europe. At the end of 2020, starting at only $45,000. That's before incentives. But guess what? It's $0 to put down to reserve yours. Takes about only 60 seconds. Try it for yourself, I dare you. The link is in the description of this video. So go there and reserve your Byton today. All right, guys, without further ado, I'm going to bring Eli on, and we're going to talk about the future Tesla App Store. Eli, how you doing, my friend?
Alex, it's good to be back, man. And I'm excited to be talking about something that gets me geeking out. And that is an app store, because an app store is a good place to find video games.
Yes, well, they are. That's how it kind of started, right? Because Ryan, I think he works for a gaming company. As a matter of fact, that's his full-time job and passion. A lot of his tweets are about it. So the games right now are not really part of the App Store. I think it's part of the Easter egg collection, right?
Yeah, it's part of the Easter egg collection, which is really part of just Tesla's OS. The games come as part of Tesla's OS. You don't have to download them. You don't have to buy them. They're just there. You can use them if you want.
Yeah. So, it's interesting that Ryan mentioned something I don't even remember, even though I did see the 1.0 UI, because when I was shopping for my first Tesla, it was early 2012, and they just released their prototypes in there. Only there was a couple of showrooms, and I just don't remember that. But he mentioned that there was an App Store icon there that just essentially went away mysteriously, and people haven't really revisited this, but he addressed it with Elon in an interview, and I was surprised by what Elon said. Elon basically said, listen, there's just not enough cars out there right now to justify for anybody to do the app. So even if you're porting an app, and by the way, porting the app means that there's already an app for a phone or for a different device, and you're taking that code. You don't have to develop the app from scratch, right? And you just have to adapt it, make a version for a different type of media, like a mobile app store. So what do you think about what Elon said about not having enough of users just yet?
So I think that because how exciting Tesla is, that I think there would have been enough users already for developers to want to put their apps inside the Tesla, because how cool is that? But I don't think Tesla until probably now, and if not yet now, in the very upcoming months, have they had enough users to justify their costs that I think are going to be needed to both develop an app store, but also maintain an app store, right? Because once Tesla gets into the app store business, they're going to have a full team of developers, a staff dedicated to this, and it's going to be its own revenue stream, right? Because anytime you're selling apps third party through some other app services, which is how these things work, there's always a revenue share model, which also means there's a minimum level of support required by the App Store provider. Now, when it comes to users, I would say in the past, maybe there hasn't been enough potential users, but we're now at 500,000 and growing at what, 10,000 per week between Model 3S and X?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, and his projections are, about 400 to, well, let's just stick with a conservative one, 400,000 new Teslas on the road every 12 months.
And let's look at one of the other things Elon talked about is that the game Cuphead is working on being ported right now to the Tesla MCU. This is actually a big deal. So if you're not big into gaming, you wouldn't be familiar with this game, but Cuphead is one of the more popular side scrollers ever. In fact, it has a 10 out of 10 rating on Steam. For those of you who don't know, Steam is the main gaming platform for computer-based gaming. I mean, Google's review on it puts it at a 97% score. So this is a really popular game. This is a very popular indie, but still commercial game that's getting put on to the Tesla. And that's no doubt coming with some costs to Cuphead to help facilitate that and some costs to Tesla. But one, I think it's going to be a lot of fun for Tesla owners. Like, I can't wait to play it. It's a game I've heard a lot about and I just never got into buying. So the fact that it's coming to my Tesla, I'm going to play it on there before I commit to buying it. But I think it's going to be something that's going to be great for Cuphead, and maybe one of the barriers that starts getting more gaming companies coming to Tesla and saying, we want your game. Because even if you're not using the Tesla experience and the Tesla app store to sell your product, it is a great way to give people exposure to your product. Because, if I like this game and I want to keep playing it, I'm not just going to go sit in my garage every time I want to play it. By getting exposed to it on the MCU, if I like the game, I will ultimately pay the money and buy it on Steam so I can play it while, I should probably be working or something like that.
Right. So I got to tell you, I personally don't buy the argument there's not enough users, because the games, well, let's just forget about just games, right? There's a lot of apps that are just useful in general. I mean, people are dying for a Waze app or Spotify app and quite a few other ones. And when an iPhone came up with the apps, with the App Store, that was a game changer for them, not just for the developers. Now, first of all, there are quite a few developers who will be more than happy to develop for even 10,000 users, and 500,000 is pretty great. It's a pretty great audience. But on top of that, Apple used to pay to some of the developers to get the apps in, because it benefited Apple. And it definitely worked, we can say now. So I don't really buy that argument from Elon, because they can pay developers to do the main apps, and then let's see who else will do it, because porting apps are really not that complicated, because it's just not. People do it all the time now.
A question for you then, Alex.
Yeah.
If you don't think that enough users is the reason why they haven't done it, why do you think they haven't done it? Because if there is enough users, then they're just leaving a revenue stream on the table, right?
But so what is enough users? First of all, I think 10,000 is enough users, right? I have 38,000 followers, and I think it's more than enough users, right? 500,000 is definitely more than enough users. But the thing is, I don't know why he's even looking at it through the lens of developers. He should be looking at it through his own lens, saying, hey, this will enhance our product essentially for free. And that alone would be the good reason to do it. Plus, beat the competition. I mean, I think it's one of the things that astounds me about legacy manufacturers and other new car makers, where this is the way to beat Tesla, you idiots. Do an app store, be the first ones to the market with that, and you'll have all these developers making their car, making these apps for your cars. It blows my mind that nobody wants to innovate. But why they're not doing it? I seriously, I've stopped using logic and asking myself why so many things, right? Like, for example, why do the farting app, right? There's a developer there sitting and developing the farting app. You could have ported a Spotify app or a Waze app, right?
I think fart mode was a much lighter development than trying to port Spotify or Waze. But yeah, I've definitely played with fart mode a lot. It's pretty hilarious, but it's pretty basic. I mean, it's a soundboard, Alex, tied to a couple buttons.
No, I know, I get that, but it's just you still have to make space for it, and before you can put anything on there, you have to make a playground, right? You have to create a
You just made me wonder about something, and this is something that
yeah.
I've heard Elon talk about. I think in the interview as well, that there's really it doesn't sound like the MCU has a ton of storage. And he talked about that in the future when they have more games, that you'd have the ability to swap back and forth, be like, delete a game to make room for other games. But since we have the ability to plug in external hard drives via the same USB ports that we charge from, I can only imagine that that's going to play a critical piece in us expanding our memory in our cars for gaming. Because it kind of got me thinking, like right now, there's not that much onboard memory available for app downloading. But since we can plug in these USB sticks, just like we are using for Sentry mode, that could easily be repurposed for gaming. So I guess it solves that storage space problem. So yeah, it seems with the hardware going in now with the newest MCU, and 500,000 global customers of Tesla that could potentially download your app. Yeah, it seems like the time may now be coming that an app store is viable.
Yeah, I'm not buying his answer at all. But okay, let me ask you this: if you were to pick, let's say Tesla is going to open up a store, which it looks like they will at some point, or really any car manufacturer. If your car was to have an app store, what would be the top 5 apps, or let's say even top 10 apps that you would absolutely love to have right away?
For me, it would be games and music. Part of it beyond that is I would have to really think about what apps that I would want on the MCU that I wouldn't want to just use on my phone. Now, I think it would be interesting that I could see some parallel support between apps that exist on my phone that I might be able to do more broader things on it, like kind of going between a phone type interface and like a tablet, which is essentially the screen. I mean, what would I personally want? The one they probably wouldn't let me have initially, which is social media. Because, that I don't
Yeah,
have to look at my
yeah,
phone while I
yeah,
drive.
yeah.
But, I don't think they're going to give me that. I think the requests I've seen for people who want to be able to run video apps, and Elon did answer to this one that maybe they'll make that available, but I would love to be able to have the video based apps that work, even only when the car's in park or even when it's only tethered to Wi-Fi. I think that would be cool to have those as an option.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I think most people agree that music and social media is what they use the most on their phones, that they would like it into their cars, though. I just did a video about things that I kind of, now that I've been driving my Volt, things that I find that Volt has that Tesla doesn't, that I wish Tesla had. And one of them is, text messaging integration, right? Like right now in my Volt, I have it read to me when I get a text message, and I can speak back to that without even touching my phone. So I would probably add that. I don't know if it would be an app or not, but all right. Here's another question for you. And you work with developers all the time. You're part of the industry. If you were to develop an app for your car, right, and let everybody else do use, but something if you were to develop for yourself, what would that be?
Okay, so if I were to add something to the car, it would just be a purely fun thing. I want a starship mode. I want to hit a mode that changes. I want to hit a button that changes all the screens to having a starfield background. That when I accelerate, the stars move the same way that Ludicrous Plus screen does, and that the car would actually use the internal surround sound speakers, not to make a gas engine noise, guys. I don't want that. That's silly. But to instead have it make that the sound that like the USS Enterprise does when it takes off, which is basically kind of the electric whine like the Tesla does already, but just more intense. I would design something fun like that. The other thing that I would love to see is this would be an advanced thing, but I would love an interface that I could actually do drag and drop things. So I could drop in social media feeds from multiple platforms would automatically update. So I could drop in, my music. Like I would want to make it like the dashboard screen that I have at my home laptop screen, where I've got all my core apps that I keep running simultaneously, and I can keep visually in front of me, so I can always stay updated on what's happening. Now I realize we're talking about doing this in a car, and this is something that drives, and that people are not supposed to be looking just at the screen right now. They're supposed to be looking at the road. So they'd have to have a pretty advanced level of like audio readout of these things. But if I wanted something that's going to really like be game changing for me, it would be that. And by the way, nobody would ever let me build this app because what I just talked about would cost a ton of money and be an unbelievable amount of bugs, but that would be my dream.
Hey, we're talking about dreams right now, right? And I'm sure people watching this, and you guys feel free to do this. Let me know what kind of apps you would design for your car that don't maybe exist yet. I think there's a lot of to be done with I would say almost like virtual reality, because we got the cars got cameras, and as you know, like for example with Yelp and many other devices where other apps where you can look through your camera through your phone, and for example it will display, like with Yelp, it will display all the businesses with ratings, right on your kind of a overlay your video as you looking at it through real time. I had this UX designer, Matthew Farmer, on my show a few weeks ago, who just as a school project redesigned the Tesla app, the mobile app, which it's like 100 times better than Tesla's current app. And one of the things he proposed is having on the Tesla app where you go into the garage, but you forgot where exactly you parked your car, so you can look through the app onto the garage building. It will put a dot exactly where your car is. So I think because of the cameras, there's a lot of potential for that virtual reality type of an experience. When I was at the CES, Audi was showcasing something very similar to us, where you put the VR sets on the kids on the back or whoever's on the back. As a car riding around, instead of being in the city, they can be going through a jungle or through the space game or whatever.
Can I
So,
wear that while I drive? Because that sounds amazing.
well, you can't, but in the future, I'm
Yeah.
sure, because actually, don't forget, because of all the radars and lidars in the future, that vision will be enhanced. So you can literally put the VR glasses on, and you will see more than your own or your own eyes. But by then, of course, it will be self-driving technology all the way. So we won't really need to actually drive. That would be ancient history. You know, I wanted. So let me ask you this. There's another thought I wanted to get out. I'll do it later. But realistically, when do you think the App Store is going to happen? And do you think somebody will beat Tesla to the market with it? And if so, who would that brand be? Who do you think is the closest in maybe innovation to do that?
I think by end of 2020 is realistic when we'll see the App Store. I don't really see that remotely on the horizon in 2019, but this is Tesla. I could be wrong. Um, I don't know. I don't know who'll be first to make an app store, because I look at the other automakers and they're not even making the moves to put serious technology in these cars. I mean, if it's going to be somebody, I think it's going to be one of the new automakers. I think Byton might have an app store, but like, I don't see anybody legacy doing it, because, GM's talking about that by 2023, they'll finally make all their new cars updatable via over the air software updates. I mean, like, these companies have to build the foundational infrastructure to ultimately host a meaningful app store. I mean, if you're not patching over the wear updates to the car yet, then you need to solve that first before you jump into an app store. And you need to put enough powerful hardware in there to make apps usable. Like, again, unless it's a new automaker, I still don't see Tesla being beat. But if it is, I would best guess Byton, just because they seem to be the furthest along. They're focusing on a very huge market, which is China. So they will have a ton of potential users very quickly. And it's one of the things that, like, it's not going to be a selling point for a car. Not yet. Nobody's going to buy one car versus the other because one has an app store. It's going to be better enhancing the experience of the car that you get and for the owner of the car that you get, but also adding revenue streams to the sellers.
I do think that it's a potential, just like with an iPhone, where an app store is or not having an app store is a deal breaker, and having an app store is a major advantage. Yes, not right away, but I think much like with the phones, especially once the cars are self-driving,
Eventually,
it's going to be all about
autonomous
it.
changes it, right? Because once we're no longer driving, now the car is about entertainment, right? So now it's the whole different thing, right? Like, we may be buying cars based on who has a better operating system in 10 years.
Yeah, yeah. Now, honestly, so obviously, Byton is one of the sponsors for this channel, and without, I don't have actually any inside information anyway about their potential app store. But looking just at first of all, agreed, it's probably going to be one of the newer startups like Byton, because they're usually are still kind of free to innovate, where the legacy manufacturers are struggling to do simple stuff like over-the-air updates. I think I'm going to go with Rivian, and I'll tell you why. Because Rivian was invested heavily by Amazon, and I feel like Amazon is kind of putting, their trial money into Rivian, and Amazon already has its own app store for Android. So I wouldn't be surprised that, and I don't even know if they've already announced that, if Rivian's operating system, at least for the consumer, is going to be running on Android, then I don't see how, Amazon Echo Auto and Amazon App Store would not be there. So I'm going to vote for Rivian on this one just because of their strategic partner in Amazon.
Yeah, I think with the new partnership of Amazon, there's a very good possibility that Amazon uses this as one of their main initial footprints to get their tech into more cars. So there's strategic value now for Amazon to give that up and share that with these vehicles. So yeah, I see that as being a good potential. I don't remember exactly what Amazon's stake is in Rivian. I know they don't have control. So it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how much that partnership changes things.
The stake is not as big, obviously, but it will also change with future investors. I mean, Ford just also invested, but don't forget, a lot of times it's not about the share; it's about a strategic partner. And I think one of the reasons Rivian allowed or went with Amazon is because of you'll probably be able to buy a Rivian truck and definitely all of the accessories, including their cool mobile kitchen, on Amazon.
Of
Just
course.
like Audi has a deal with Amazon, not just to put the Echo Auto in the car, but also that you can basically buy a charger for Audi when you get a car, for you get an e-tron, and that will also include installation. So that's great move by Rivian, and I think they're going to get way more out of that than we even think. So we're a lot of this information that came out about the App Store and why we and many other people are still even talking about it is because Ryan McCaffrey had an interview with Elon. What are your thoughts generally about that interview? It was interesting. It kind of didn't have that any sensational information, and a lot of it was about reminiscing and some of the general questions about the past. But it did bring up some interesting points and got us a few interesting details. What's your impression of that interview?
First off, I'm super happy for Ryan that this happened for him, that he got this to be his 200th episode. Like, what a way to celebrate this podcast he's been working on for 3 years plus now. So I'm really happy to see that happened. Now, what was the most interesting thing about the interview for me was, and it was a much broader takeaway. So Ryan got the chance to ask a number of questions that clearly were delivered from his audience, which is awesome that his audience got to get some questions asked of Elon, and even just some, community hunches and theories about why they did things. Like, one of the questions Ryan asked him was like, "Oh, you guys released Insane Mode, and then 3 months later you released Ludicrous, and us in the community had all these reasons why we thought they did it." And for Elon, it was like, we literally just figured out how to make it better, so we made it better. And it's interesting that, like, I think a lot of the theories and things that we come up with for the timing of why Tesla does things, I don't think, like, my takeaway from that interview is they probably don't exist. I think it's literally like they make improvement, they push out improvement. And we are kind of applying strategy to some of these after the fact. Now, that's obviously not always the case. I think very clear Tesla had to do a Model S and X refresh now, as they made the Model 3 for a while a better car, a better value, and it was cannibalizing sales. But it's just interesting to hear that some of these improvements they make, that literally it's like they make them so they push them out. And it's just us applying attribution to that on what they mean, and that's not necessarily reality. The bit about the $50,000 price point, minimum price, or maximum price point for the base model of the truck was a big deal. And I don't think anybody saw was coming. I think everybody was expecting that car was going to be at least 70K plus. So hearing that there'll be a base model that's going to come in under 50, I think is going to excite a lot of people who are thinking about buying, and now making some people realize that, oh, they may be able to afford this vehicle when they thought maybe they couldn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's that probably was one of the bigger ones. Of course, the roaster being the other one. So, as much as I liked the interview, and obviously, Ryan is a huge Tesla fan, I would love for Elon to actually kind of shed his whoever the communication people around him are, which as it's no secret, I think they're doing a horrible job and a disservice to the company. But just go on and have an interview with someone who will ask him real questions, and just maybe even have a chance to correct some of the things that he said he might have not meant, some of the things that are misunderstandings and so forth. In a friendly interview like this, obviously there's no arena for that, but I really wish, like, he would just go and do an interview with with somebody who will not be a Tesla hater either, right? It will be somebody who would just genuinely want to address the ongoing issues and past issues with Tesla, and give a genuine an opportunity to Elon to kind of set the record straight, and be able to be honest with it. So,
I think
but
that would be great. And then I think there's got to be somebody out there in the mainstream who can do it objectively and also give fair coverage when they report it. I'm sure you remember the last time Elon went on 60 Minutes, he had to come out publicly and retort a number of things because they sure did a great job of making some of those cuts and edits to really make it seem like he was saying things that he wasn't. So I would love to see somebody who, with that type of reach, who's going to do a fair interview that whatever gets talked about gets shared and we get to see that full story. I mean, obviously the Joe Rogan podcast wasn't so much focused on tough questions, but just sharing information. But I'd love to see something in that format where it's like, all right, we're going to ask questions, we're going to talk about them, and the whole video is going to be out there for everybody to see. Maybe it'll happen at some point. Maybe it would probably help if we knew who to suggest for that.
I know. I would actually suggest you, man. I think one of the reasons I love having you on my show is because you're a huge Tesla fan. At the same time, you're still excited about electric cars and you're open to many other brands. And I feel like you've educated yourself on other brands where I see a lot of Tesla, YouTubers who are just kind of living in a Tesla bubble and don't quite understand and know what's going on outside of it, right? So I would nominate you because I actually think you would, the brand and Elon well enough to know what's going on, but I think you wouldn't shy away from the issues which you know and admit yourself, could be addressed better. So I vote for you.
Well, I appreciate it, man. That would be the dream. And speaking on the front of other EVs, something I want to get with you with sometime soon after this is I got to test drive more of these new upcoming EVs because I really want to understand from a good perspective what these performances are like. Because now that EVs are getting more into the mainstream, because I'm an EV owner and identified as EV owner by being a big part of the Tesla community, I'm getting a lot of broader EV questions that I want to be able to do a good job answering. And I don't want to be really giving too much comment about a car that I haven't driven. So one of the things I want to ask your help with is to help me get some ride in some more of these upcoming EVs so I can talk about them.
Yeah, it's actually I don't want to disclose too much. I just spoke to Byton today, and they have a lot of prototypes running around, so I might actually get a chance to ride in one of those because they're doing a lot of testing and stuff like that. So maybe we can do that together. It would be interesting to see your perspective on the car that I love, kind of fell in love with. So we can definitely do that. All right, man. I love this topic. I feel like, and I'm also looking forward to some of the comments in the comment section because I feel like people can get really creative with this. And I really, really, really wish I don't even care who, Tesla, Audi, Byton, Rivian, whoever will finally come out of it because I feel like it will be like next step of the automotive progress, of electric car progress. So I just can't wait for that.
Me too. And you know what? As soon as one person does this, the rest of the industry is going to jump on board. So it's kind of one of those ones that it's the best for all of us, whoever's the first through the wall, because everybody else is going to come chasing after them.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. All right, my friend, that was great chatting with you again. I will see you next Wednesday as always.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, it's always fun to talk to Eli, and especially I knew this conversation about apps. We can probably talk forever. Of course, if you don't know who he is, you should definitely join. He is a My Tesla Adventure Club. This is mainly for North California and California people, but there's just so many amazing things that are happening. He's also got a new podcast going on, which we'll link to in the description of this video, which I think they're on the 4th or 5th episode already. So that should be exciting. And of course, don't forget to sign up with our VIP list, which is free, and we do bonus stories every Saturday. Of course, as you know, we do a deal of the month every Saturday. You get a discount code for one of the cool Tesla or even electric car related products. We'll have more in the upcoming weeks and months. So yeah, looking forward to your comments. Let me know what type of apps would you want in your app stores. I mean, I genuinely want to know. So looking forward to that. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.